Uh, um, uh, um, uh, um, um, Greetings, Earthlings. Today we're going to be talking about a fear of public speaking. Apologies in advance, I might be looking away at some notes, so if you see me look somewhere else, that's what's going on. All right, so I want to start the video by talking about my background. I was terrible at public speaking growing up, but more importantly, I was deathly scared. There have been funny or sad surveys of people that you may have heard of where they say they're more scared of public speaking than dying. In the moment when I was younger, and I don't think this is an I don't think this is an exaggeration because I felt that fear. So I just want all of you to know that I'm not making this video from the perspective of someone who has been really good at this stuff for a long time, but rather from someone for whom, like, for most of my life I was terrible and terrified of it. And while I'd say I far from mastered it, I'm very happy with the progress that I've made thus far. So there is hope. Doing things like I was, again, just for background, I was a super shy kid. Um, I had a huge voice issue, which I won't go into in this video, but if you feel like you have your own, unique issues and why this is extra scary for you, I get it. Uh, Doing things like joining a breakdancing group where all eyes are on you, as well as teaching in front of individuals in larger groups, as well as making these YouTube videos have all helped tremendously. You'll notice whenever someone is an excellent public speaker, they almost always have had plenty of opportunities and practice at public speaking. Just imagine how many campaign events politicians like Bill Clinton and Obama, or a speaker of your choice, have done. How many speeches have they given? How much practice did they get that you are not even aware of? So the first thing I want to do is talk about the fear part of it. Let's do a quick thought experiment. So pretend you, I mean, it might be hard to pretend because you're not in the situation, but pretend you're in a crowded theater and there's a fire and you're the one that notices this. And if you don't let people know, everybody's going to die. So if you had to yell that there's a fire in a crowded theater, how much fear would you have of yelling that there's a fire in a crowded theater? Now, for those of us that are really shy, we would still probably feel really, scared to do that, but the importance of the situation would probably drive us to do that and overcome that fear. So, as an exaggeration, I'll just say that in that situation, you might not have fear because it's so important. So, how come there's fear under normal circumstances? So, let me just do a quick whiteboard and put a few notes. So, fear. So, why is there that fear? And one of the big things that we'll see that I'll mention here is this would be kind of like the big point: connection. Under normal circumstances, when there's not a life or death emergency, chances are you're not connected to what you have to say. You think it's about you and the social, judging of you, and not the material you're presenting. Elite performers such as musicians, unlike younger musicians, still have performance anxiety, but are able to channel and sublimate and work through it because the goal is to be in the service of the music or the sport or the event that they're performing. So the more that you think it's about you and how you look performing it and not about presenting your unique take on the music or just showing where you're at, the more nervous you will get. Lack of preparation. So let's just put this on the whiteboard. So if you think it's about you versus your connection to the material you're presenting to the audience. So there is you, there is the material, there is the audience, and all of this is a connection, right? So it's not just about you being judged. So lack of preparation ties into importance. If you thought something were important enough, barring situations where you simply didn't have enough time to prepare, you would probably prepare as best as you could, right? So if you're nervous because you didn't prepare, well, it makes sense that you would be nervous. So let's assume that you have been preparing and you still have this crippling fear of public speaking. Over time, so we're going to split this basically into two big points. One will be connection, and two will be craft. So over time, you will pick up performance and room crowd control tricks. But one way to expedite and think about this process is that when you really care, you are instantly more effective at communicating. For example, if you're giving a presentation and you don't make eye contact, would you do that if the information you're presenting is life or death? So again, back to the theater example, are you going to look down when you're telling people, hey guys, there's a fire in this theater? Are you going to have more emotion and look at people and be more animated? Would you not look someone in the eye in that situation? Now, there are certain people that have issues with looking people in the eye. So we're assuming that, kind of developmental issues aside, the point is that a lot of these so-called professional presentation and public speaking techniques can be discovered organically. One example I like, who's a group of people that is consistently excellent at public speaking, as well as oftentimes musical performance? Can you think of a group of people that's really good at this? Well, one group that comes to mind for me is preachers of any religious denomination. So to me, they're consistently excellent. Not always, but very often. So preachers or their family members, or just someone who grew up singing, let's say in a church and experiencing church services, mosque, a synagogue, whatever kind. It doesn't even have to be a religious context. It could be some cultural, traditional presentation. One example, you could think of, let's say, in the African American gospel church tradition, that would be a good sort of group of preachers to study. Why? There might be several reasons why they're so good. But one of the big ones might be that in their minds, they're performing a life and death ritual. They're trying to help save and guide people's souls. What could be more important than saving somebody's soul? So it's not that they're just these excellent performers in a petri dish. Being connected to the message has taught and guided them into effective public speaking, which they can carry over into any other endeavor. In addition, and maybe equally as important or more important, is that their public speaking practice was nurtured. So that's a craft, a really big one. So nurtured, and I'm just going to put some key words here: environment. Environment, maybe context. Maybe I need to spell that correctly. Okay, context. So there was nurtured growing up as part of the right community or environment. So growing up, what was valued and respected in my community, in my own life, was being quiet and humble, not being the center of attention. I'm not putting a judgment on that, but in terms of developing the skill of public speaking, is it any wonder that I had to play catch up on some of these public speaking skills? So, how to start? So, I would say, here's some ideas for you guys. Obviously, you don't have to do all of them, but see how this works. Use any opportunity to practice public speaking, oftentimes starting with smaller and less pressure situations. So you could do smaller, less pressure situations. What are these situations? It could be giving a toast at a birthday, at a wedding, telling a joke at a big family gathering. Just like a comedian who must work at their craft and get better over time by practicing, you will find that this is a skill that can be improved. So an even bigger step than taking these one-off opportunities is creating the right environment, as we mentioned, for yourself through continued activities that as a byproduct will help in the skill you seek. For example, you might pick up an instrument, a musical instrument, and if you already play one, maybe join a band and do a performance for some friends and family. It's going to be uncomfortable at first, but it will help work on those skills. If you play sports, doing a sort of team sporting event, playing some games will put you in those pressure situations. You might pick up dancing because public speaking is really part of a broader fear of having the spotlight on you. So you don't need to limit yourself to just speaking activities, but you may want to do that if that's what you want to improve on. A big myth, I think, that holds a lot of people back, in addition to the ones we talked about, how people think it's about them versus their connection to the material and the nurturing. A myth that holds people back is that one is either naturally good at it or not. So some people are good public speakers, other people are not. Because what happens is we only see the naturally good public speakers after they've had a long time to practice. And we never really got to see their early environment and their reinforcers. So their parents encourage them to be the center of attention or to be quiet and well behaved. What environments were they in? Were they in a choir group growing up? Did they sing songs at camp with a guitar? What did they do? But remember, underneath all this is the skill component. So there's always a connection to what you're saying. I think this is one of the reasons that so many standardized tests and athletic events can cause anxiety, because oftentimes it's difficult or almost impossible to feel connected to what you're doing. It just becomes about you and your performance. And that's a very sterile and unhealthy environment to be in on a chronic basis. So in summary, think if you're feeling nervous about what you're presenting, think about the connection to the material you're presenting, the music, the speech, whatever it is you're doing. And over the long, that's sort of like a short term, if you're like in the situation and now what do you do? Number one, it's kind of like a short term fix. In the long term, you want to work on it as any other craft. The part of like thinking about it's just about you, sometimes you want to impress somebody, or there's some stakes riding on the public presentation. So I don't want to make this video any longer. Try to connect with the material. Do you love what you're presenting? How important is it to convey it to your audience? Do you think it's interesting? Are you wasting their time? If you don't feel you're wasting your time, that's going to change your attitude. Like, for example, if you tell your friend a joke, you're going to be excited because you really want them to hear it. So a lot of the time, this can be a sign of you're in a classroom and there's some project and you're just trying to get a grade. So you don't even care about the presentation and you're nervous because you just want the grade. So again, lack of connection. So if you're passionate about what you're doing, the connection, that will go a long ways. And over time, practicing it in different environments will help you build that. So I want to keep it simple. Connection and craft, those are the two big points. I want to hear from you guys. Share your stories. I'd love to hear them. Once you've had a chance to try some of the things in this video, comment below and let me know how they're working for you. All right, have a good one.